When quoting any insurance products, a skilled insurance representative should always be on the lookout for other opportunities. By asking the right question and paying attention, you may be able to help the client with additional policies and help them get additional discounts. Let's look at how to find these opportunities in a fire policy. Most agents, when they quote a home, condo, or renter's insurance, they tend to just take the details of the property or a general idea of replacement costs for the personal property and quote without taking the time to really understand the client's profile. The mentality of hurry up and quote, competing on pricing rather than quality of the products, tend to cause the closing ratio to be low and higher cancellation, as I believe the same reason of how you win the customer will be the same reason that they will leave. Instead, take time to understand the client and their needs. A home is the most valuable asset that many clients have. Personal properties accumulated over time can add up and will cost a substantial amount to replace and should not be taken lightly. By taking the time to really understand the client's profile, you will establish yourself as a true asset protection advisor instead of a salesman trying to make a quick buck. Let's start with helping the client figure out their structural replacement cost. Every insurance company has a certain calculator to figure out this number. There usually are two options, one with a general overview and the other with more in-depth, asking about the features of the home, type of flooring, cabinets, etc. Take the time to do in-depth questionnaire. By doing so, the client will know that you care about protecting them. It also helps them understand the importance of having the right insurance advisor matters. If they decide to shop further, this will set you apart from your competition and will bring them back to you. Besides relying on the calculator, get to know the replacement cost in the market area. The calculator serves a larger scale. Costs for materials and labor can vary depending on where the client have their home, and variation can occur. I usually would use the calculator as a baseline, but also research a local market for average cost per square foot and discuss this detail with the client. This shows the client that you go above and beyond to make sure that they are properly covered and build a relationship much deeper than just quoting for price. Next, let's discuss about personal property. Most policies will come with a certain percentage of coverage based on the structural replacement. That is a good start, but what about all the limitations? If you don't have a deeper understanding, you will miss covering them for their valuables such as jewelry, collectibles, and artwork. Here again, I have a set of questions that I prepared as part of my discoveries. Take a look at this sample. By knowing this number, I will be able to propose an increase in coverage or a personal article policy. I certainly would not feel very good if they lose their wedding rings and have to say that they are limited to only $2,500 because I didn't do my job making sure that they understand their coverage. Speaking of limitations, all insurance policies will have limits to certain coverage. For example, sewer and drain, building ordinance and law, identity theft, business in the home. Really spend the time with your clients to discuss these limitations and make sure that they are covered as needed. For example, many changes to construction law may have occurred in 20 years, and if that discussion didn't happen, the client will not be covered in a loss and you will lose a loyal customer, not to mention a suit that can occur for errors and omissions. Now, let's talk about the liability coverage. I believe this is where it matters the most and where it's taken very lightly. Many people will focus on making sure that their property is covered, but don't realize that liability lawsuit is what can financially devastate a family. Early in my career, there was a family that I insured. The parents were on a trip and their teenager son decided to throw a party. During a party, a fight broke out and a person got killed. They were sued, lost millions of dollars, and the parents' savings were gone. Not only that, a lien was put on the house, and even though there is a Homestead Act, at the time it was only $75,000. If the parents ever sell that house and have not paid off the judgment, the equity will go to the party first before the family will ever receive any money. The cost for liability insurance is so minimal. When I quote a client, my proposal is never under $500,000, and I discuss the umbrella policy along with it. This would also be a good place to do the liability worksheet to discover the assets and liabilities. I also discuss the medical coverage along with it. It's funny how many people think medical coverage in a homeowner's policy is to cover them because of the correlation of the auto policy and medical coverage. I have to explain that it actually covers the other party and why it is important, but in the process, I also make sure that I discover the current medical insurance coverage, opening up opportunities for disability and long-term care. Next, in funding opportunities is the deductible. The simple question of, if you have a loss, how much can you afford out of pocket, will give you a lot of details about the client's financial situation. Between this discovery and liability worksheet, there's a huge opportunity for investment products if your company offers these services. Finally, I never run a quote without asking for the client's birth date, whether they are tobacco users, the mortgage balance, interest rate, and term. Though this isn't always needed to run a quote, many clients would be more than happy to give you the details. This is where you can run a life proposal, disability, and if you do mortgage financing, it will open up the door to that as well. So in one conversation, you can see how much opportunities come about. Asking the questions and taking care of the customers correctly, you will be able to offer personal article policy, umbrella policy, life insurance, disability and long-term care, increased coverage as needed. The best part is your client will appreciate that you care and that you are doing your job right in protecting them. Make the conversation relevant, and it can be fun as you help the client understand their needs. Oh, and one last thing, make sure you give an earthquake or flood proposal with all your presentations if you are in states that are affected by this often.